Resident Evil 4 was like the first mature game I really got into. I mean, maybe StarCraft was rated M. I don't remember, but this one was definitely gory and it was something else. I first played this game on GameCube, but recently replayed it on the Wii for the Wii edition, and I discovered that I was terrible at it. I was absolutely awful. In fact, my friend who had the game and had the system I was playing it on found it amusing just how terrible I was and how nervous I would get about what was about to happen. It was like I played it before. I knew, like, okay, for the most part, I forgot some things, like the flame guy that comes out of the oven. Like, holy shit! I knew where the scares would happen, but I would still get like physically nervous and I'd start saying like stupid things. And my friend found it funny how bad I was at the game with the extra aiming mechanic. I mean, I got better as time went on, but it was humorous how terrible I was. Now, it was a very fun game, but there was definitely some things I noticed about it upon revisiting it. Obviously, it doesn't look as good. It's three-dimensional early GameCube stuff, and while the Wii thing probably looked a little better than it originally did, it doesn't age well when it comes to like textures and where you can move and what's actually part of the environment and what's just kind of just a screen to make sure you don't see behind it. It definitely didn't look as good as I remembered it in that regard. And for a game that had so many like different possibilities, or so many perceived possibilities of how to go through a level, I tended to do the same thing over and over again when it came to like alerting the bad guys that I was there and taking them out from a safe distance, or like corralling them towards me. Or I kind of used the same strategy over and over again when it came to defeating the crowd of units. Speaking of which, I definitely didn't recall how often the game was just like, here's a big room with all these Ganado, and here's another big room with all these Ganado. Especially towards the end of the game, you kind of like get through the castle and it's something different, and then you get towards the end, and you're like, oh, it's just a bunch of Ganado again in a different environment. I mean, it's probably a nitpicky criticism. It was definitely still nerve-wracking and fun and engaging and all that. The thing that aged the worst, I guess you could say, were the little like pop-up, you have to press the button now in order to continue the game and survive the boulder sequences. Where when they first came out, it was like a breath of fresh air and a way to have your character do a bunch of different things through a bunch of different cinematic sequences without necessarily having to map it to a control or make it be clunky. When I played it recently, it was kind of like, I don't know, a tax or a punishment. You're like, okay, to continue the game, press X now at proper time. Whoops, you got stabbed by Krauser. Now you got to redo the whole sequence over and over again so you get it right. It felt like it took all the control away from you in a way that didn't reward skill or anything like that. It was just like, press either 1 or 2 at the proper time, because that's what the Wii gave you. It was like, you can press this or you can press this. Guess which one? And that part definitely didn't hold up well. I think the coolest part of the game still, and that remained consistent, was the fight with Krauser, where you're running around this entire village and it seems like he could just be anywhere or do anything. That was like the culmination of everything the game had done that far when it came to like the hordes of Ganado and them approaching you in different spots and you being able to take shelter in different places. Like, that boss battle was still the pinnacle of that game. It was pretty sweet. It took everything I had to beat Krauser, but it was definitely a satisfying experience. I forgot how much was left in between Krauser and the final crab boss, but it was definitely a fun experience. It was also fun being absolutely goddamn terrible at it.